Hello and welcome back to another Hour Game. Delighted to be back for another week, joined by our sponsors Lottoland once again. And delighted to be back with Nisha once again. And Nisha, you've been a travelled man since I saw you last, by all accounts.
Tell you, yeah, sure. You notice the tan there? I'm all sun-kissed from Vegas. Yeah, Jesus. Baby free as well this week. But yeah, I was in Vegas for the over 40s, the hurling and Gaelic football, the knees that crack tournament. And
hold on a second now. Like this, even just the idea of this is one of the greatest things ever put together. 40-year-old men going out playing hurling, playing blackjack, having a bit of booze on board. This is beautiful now.
Oh, it's the dream. Like it's so. And there was lads way older than 40 playing. I think somebody turned 70 there. It's literally over 40. So, you know, there's lads between, and women there. There's men and women there between 40 and 70 playing. Like, it's some laugh. So next year they were saying, Kim, who organises it, she was saying that what they're going to do is have like a social section for anyone 55 and over. So like, it's like one of them things. Like, look, if you're running marathons and stuff, like. Forget about it, right? If you want to go out and run marathons, like I always say, just get out and hurl. Like, could just go and enter this thing, go for a weekend with the lads or whoever. There's a flight now as well with Aer Lingus, a direct one to Vegas. So lads flew over Thursday and left Tuesday. So it's a heavy couple of days. So they were there Thursday, Friday, and then hurled. I was refereeing because obviously I'm not even 40 yet. Like, I'm nowhere near it. The first match I refed was at 9:30 Saturday morning. Wow. And like you're playing, like people are like, oh, it's an old blitz or whatever. Like, but I think you're guaranteed at least 4 matches, so it's well worth the trip. And then you can enter hurling and football if you want, but you'd be kind of mad, I think, to try and play both because you'd end up playing about 8 or 9 or 10 matches, depending. But unreal. Like, you're leaving here freezing and raining, going over there for 4 or 5 days with the lads, like entering a team for the crack, and it was about somewhere between 16, 18 degrees, sunny. Just class. We had 9 fields going at the one time as well. Wow. It was something like, I think there's about 500 players registered, and none more famous than JJ Delaney joined this year. Taggy played in it last year, and JJ played in it this year. So hopefully it starts spreading in their WhatsApp groups, and you start getting more and more of the greatest team of all time to come back. But once you see, it was gas. Like, once you seen the slitter flying around, I was reffing, and I was like, jeez, I should have brought me stuff. But yeah, just a brilliant weekend. It was absolutely class, absolutely brilliant.
I can see this like growing legs left, right, and centre, and boys thinking, geez, this is some opportunity. We're we're doing a bit of hurling. We will be doing a bit of hurling, but we'll be over in Vegas for 3 or 4 days or whatever. Like, it couldn't get any better. Like, this is, listen, I've already done it nearly 10 times, but it'll definitely be number 11. Through this some way, by hook or crook, I don't know how, whether it's refereeing, playing, or covering it media wise, I don't know what, but we'll get over there somehow.
Yeah, sure. As soon as you're 40, you'll be eligible to play. Call a few of the Offaly lads out of retirement. Brian Whelan surely could run from here to there. Like, come on, that's all he has to do. That was probably it's 13 aside as well, so there's not loads of running in it, but there's plenty game time. But that was some of the best part of it, where it was fairly old school, where it was a lot of catching and striking. Somebody would move 5 or 6 yards, catch it and shoot and all. It was very enjoyable to ref now. Not that I blew the whistle much and the lads were getting fairly annoyed with it. Sure, you were there to hurl, not to take frees, as I said.
Yeah,
Connie Shamrocks ended up winning it. They beat the Laois crowd in the final, and the trophy was a golden bedpan. So Conor Brennan got to lift the golden bedpan in the pub afterwards. And again, there was a big after party after and all. It's a great, and it's a fundraiser as well for the collegiate teams in the US. The hurling and Gaelic football collegiate teams, you see, they use the money to kind of help raise funds for buying gear, helping the lads travel, because like that's all self-funded and stuff. The colleges don't really help out. You kind of have to sponsor that yourself. So that crack tournament, the over 40s thing, is a fundraiser for them to help them out. And this year it's going to be broadcast on ESPN again as well. So it's kind of trying to help pay for all that stuff as well. So great crack, great few days, like.
Deadly. You've been busy, Nisha, by all accounts, because you were you nearly went viral over the weekend. I think we might have the clip somewhere in the background there, with your reaction to what was an unbelievable goal at the weekend. We'll just tee it up here. Should be playing in the next couple of seconds.
Count the horn na bliana Shawnee Keneally.
Oh, like we call a dead of Taggart the sport in America faker, so like Kazula baseball and they're hurling shit, they're dordy shit, come on, kind of loose chin host Newfie Marok, got their shoulder good, oh fake or shin mar cool, pass on the ass, lad, duck credit, shin duck credit.
What a reaction! Like it was the sort of goal that would have elicited a mad reaction, though. To be fair,
that like if you listen to it, I look back at it a couple of times now because I was like, I can't believe I said that, because I didn't realise at the time I had said it. It just kind of came out like, but I was holding down the microphone so I wouldn't be making noise, like to give Brian that he's the main commentator, obviously, so he's there to give the call. So I had the microphone down, but you can actually, I was laughing so loud you can kind of hear me cackling in the background. It's just because when he got the hand pass, I was like, oh, catch it and try flick it in here, or whatever the usual Shane Dowling might come out club. And he just, as soon as he lifted up the arms, I was going, what are you doing? And then boom, like, it was class. It was such a deadly goal and a crazy match. But yeah, just one of them kind of reactions that like, because it was so instinctive and so out of the blue that like you weren't kind of, you know, it's all like, oh, possession and make sure you're doing the right thing, the percentage plays and all this. And he just said, nah, Keneally's like, nah, I'm whipping on this. It was class. It was so good, like, so good.
It was like the ball was after shooting out of a cannon. Like the pace of it. It was basically like, imagine if Duggan's shot had hit the net at the end of the 2023 All-Ireland semi-final. It would have been very, very similar. But it's great that despite all the coaching that goes on and all the percentages that teams play, that there's still a degree of instinct in lads, because particularly around the goals, right?
Yeah.
I've no issue with like ground hurling it's not conducive anymore because you're giving away the ball. But around the goals, pulling on balls or anything like that, or doubling on balls, it's impossible. Like you ask a keeper, what's the hardest shot to save? That one, like Dowling didn't even get, by the time he saw it, and he did get a touch to it, to be fair to him, but by the time he saw it, it was nearly past him. Same with if a ball breaks around the 14 and a lad pulls on it. Like, so difficult to stop for a keeper. It was absolutely beautiful. I think everybody was a bit taken aback because it's just not something you expect to see now.
No, and that's why it was so class, and that's why I was kind of laughing. I was just like, what the heck? Like, you know, and even when I'm going back over and you listen back and my voice keeps breaking because it was wild. Like, it was class. And like, you're talking about the ground hurling there, like, as well as like I have a video on that, like, as well. There, I did one last summer where it's like the two places you should be playing ground hurling is in front of the opposition goal or in front of your own goal.
Yeah.
Like Flanagan used to say, you know, when the ball breaks down there, like we had him in a development squad one year, when the ball breaks down in front of the goal, your hurler should turn into a brush and you sweep it out the side, you just sweep it, and there'll be no danger out there, the danger is here. Like, and that's the kind of thing, because like, yeah, out around the middle of the field now it's just too risky. Lads are too good, they'll take it off you and drive back over the bar and you look like a fool. But and we've seen a couple there. I remember Curry got a goal in the Dublin County final where it bounced and he whipped on it as well.
Yeah.
In tougher conditions, kind of wintry kind of conditions, which was class. And that's the thing, is like when you see it, or when you do it, you don't really give the goalie a chance to set. Like, and that's probably what happened with Dowling. He was probably tracking the slitter and expecting him to catch it, and he let flying it, and he had to dive. And even though he did clip it, like if the goalie did catch it, if Keneally did catch it, he probably would have come out, closed him down, or been able to do some kind of maneuver to stop him. But it was just. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And Keneally, like, to be fair to him, he actually he nearly got another goal in the second half. Like, he could have left the match with 2-3, and I don't know how many frees he won either. Like, he was really good on Sunday.
Just talking about instincts and that, and even like Cian Lynch has done many things, but even scoring that kind of free point almost. Remember that where he didn't take it in his hand in the second half? He just flicked it up and put it over the bar. There was a couple of things happen. It was You were there, obviously. There was a fair, like, it wasn't championship intensity, but there was a fair intensity to it.
It was the speed was the thing. Like, so there wasn't like loads of big heavy hits, but because you couldn't really get to anyone. There was barely any frees either, because like the ball was like the slitter was flying around, and Patrick O'Donovan as well in the corner was absolutely class. He was absolutely. Like, he got 3 points from play, I think. I'd say he laid off another 2 or 3 and probably won another 2 or 3 threes. But he got 2 in the corner, one especially where Cian Lynch lost his hurl. And Cian Lynch just kind of ended up having to hand it to him. and he spun, and like he definitely didn't look at the goal. And as he turned,
he had no time to look at the goal.
No, it was. And again, like I had the microphone down because I didn't want to be interrupting Breen, like when he's talking, like because he's the master, like. But I was there going like, oh my, like you know, if I have it up here, like you know, you'd be hearing me growling and grunting into it. But it was just some of the scores they got, like O'Connor as well on the wing, and even Hurley as well when he came in, got two savage points with centre back. It was just the speed they were moving, and what I love about Limerick, and Tip were kind of doing it, but Limerick were doing it better. The way Limerick don't overdo anymore the kind of short passing, flicking and tapping. They know when to do that to break out, and then they know when to go long when it's on. And the diagonal passing, and in the first half, especially the way they were finding Glan, and then they kind of went away from it in the second half, but the diagonal passes to Glan the first half they were killing the Tip full back line, and then Ronan Maher kind of sat back and started covering there because Reedy was kind of running wherever he wanted, kind of. So Ronan Maher was then able to sit back like and kind of sweep in front. So it kind of cut it out a bit, but it was such a good game. The speed of it was crazy for a league game. Crazy.
Would you say that was like, I think it was demoralising enough from a Tipperary point of view in the wind up? They really struggled for scores in the second half, as they have in recent years. Look at their starting 15 and you're thinking, ooh, there's double figures lads here going to be probably playing come championship. Look at the Limerick starting 15 and you're thinking, like, just off the top of my head, Sean Finn, Mike Casey, Quaid's obviously not fit to play, Barry Nash, Kyle Hayes wasn't on the field by the end, Declan Hannon, Will O'Donoghue, Darragh O'Donovan, Cathal O'Neill, Gerard Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, Peter Casey. There's probably one or two more I'm missing as well. Like psychologically, it's good from a Limerick point of view. I wouldn't say it's good from a Tipperary point of view, though. Like, just to think we're still 4 or 5 off them. We've a lot of work done. They probably have less done, and they've all these big hitters to come back.
And would you believe I was getting messages after it saying Tip are back? I was going, I replied to one of them going, you know, Limerick won. And he goes, but you have to love that kind of performance. I said, okay. So there's an awful lot of lads missing there from Limerick, like, you know, and you think about it too, like, especially in the first half, Limerick nearly were kind of trying to force goals when they weren't on, where you could have just said, right, you know, just get a point, but they obviously wanted goals. So they probably left a load, and again, this will happen in the league, but they left a lot of scores behind them too. And when Tip went ahead, they couldn't pull away, which is another kind of thing. You'd be kind of like, geez, you know, the half forward line, that looked really good, and they were very clever, some of the things they were doing. So they were pulling Diarmaid Burns. So whoever was marking Diarmaid Burns, they were kind of swapping between Tynan and Gerard O'Connor sometimes. And it's Jake Morris. They were kind of swapping who was on Diarmaid Burns, but what they were doing was keeping Diarmaid Burns into the middle. So then that whole wing was free. So then they were peppering ball up that wing, and that's where the goal came from as well. Mickey Breen came on that way and went diagonal then to Keneally. That's what the goal came from. So like some of the things they did in the first half were very clever, and you're kind of going, geez, Jake Morris is going well here. You know, you got 3-4 points in play. Same with Tynan, and then like you were saying there, second half, then that all seemed to completely dry up, where you really needed a leader there to, you know, Gerard O'Connor, like, or Jake Morris to go, hey, hand in the air here, puck it to me, and we're scoring. I'm either creating a goal or we're getting a point or winning a free. We need it. We're 2 ahead. We need to go 3 ahead and make it 4. But that just, it didn't happen. And that'd be the kind of worry where you'd be kind of thinking they were obviously going all out to win the game, and even with kind of a half a team for Limerick, they still couldn't.
Yeah, they don't have an out ball or someone you can horse the ball down on top of when you really need a puck out one, even if it's 2-3 puck outs in a row and he wins one. You know, it's just because it's so demoralizing, because the rot never stops. Do you know what I mean? It just keeps going and going, and like that Rolling Stone gathering moss, it's more and more. Then all of a sudden the game is kind of gone. But from a Limerick point of view, then as well, like as you say, we mentioned a lot of the new faces. Aidan O'Connor finished with 5. Patrick O'Donovan ended up with 3. Fergal O'Connor was tidy in the corner. Barry Murphy's not a new face, but he's a new face in the corner, and he's just really reliable and does
he was brilliant
nearly all the time. Burns looks like has the bit between his teeth and wants to get back to, you know, well, every bit of form maybe before he had last year coming into the All-Ireland semi-final. He probably was quiet last year, even before that. Looks like Hayes is probably going to be 6. But there was a question in there from Fiol. He just asked, where does Adam English play, or where does he start if he does start? There is some congestion around that middle. Like, if you look at it from, I'd say 5 is fairly nailed down, and 6 is probably nailed down, I'd say, as well, maybe at this stage, unless Hannon comes back in. But like, for 8 and 9, you're looking at Will O'Donoghue, Darragh O'Donovan, Cathal O'Neill, Adam English. Who else have we probably thrown in there? Like, you'd imagine 3 of those will start. Maybe O'Neill starts centre forward, but Cian Lynch kind of comes out into the middle as well. They've got a lot of riches in around that middle area there. Do you see Adam English as the starter come summer?
Hard to know, Sean. I suppose it depends on training, how the league goes, and who's hurt and who's not. But like from Limerick's point of view, because you go into that round robin thing, obviously, like, if 2 lads get injured, you're kind of going, well, we still have these other 3. Whereas another county, you get 2 lads injured, you're kind of going, well, sure, how are we expected to win Munster? How are we expected to win Leinster? Whereas they have such a depth of the panel. Like, it's absolutely crazy. It's you're talking about 4 to 5 lads who would definitely be starting on other teams, but they're all in the one squad. Like, so I don't know. Like, I thought he was brilliant there with Cian Lynch on Saturday or Sunday. And then the way David Reedy was kind of coming out as like a third midfielder as well, he was picking up so much ball, and then they were effectively bypassing Ronan Maher for most of it, like, right. So yeah, they have so many good players around the middle. I would say it'll probably be whoever has the most energy. Like, that's the kind of thing I would say with like of Patrick O'Donovan there, like in the corner. He just looked like he had so much energy in there. Like, obviously, because Peter Casey is class on his day, but to come back from that horrific of an injury he got last year and to be able to play with the same zip, I think you're kind of expecting a lot of him. So it depends, like, and again, even inside there too, you think about the competition for places between Flanagan, Gallan, Peter Casey when he comes back, Patrick O'Donovan, and whoever else wants to line up in there. Like, they have a ferocious squad, like an absolutely ferocious squad. So I don't know. I don't know come summer. It'll just depend, I suppose, on who's fit, who isn't, and then how training is going, and then the kind of energy of the team, I suppose. Because Colin Coughlin, same thing. He could get squeezed out there too, like, where you're like, oh, I thought he was going well.
They've had a word with him, I'd say too. He took on 1 long range shot, but that's just not percentage play, I would say, and he's retaining ball a lot better now. And he's seems to be less liable in the last 2 games I've seen him to allow himself to be put on the back foot as much, if you get me, which is obviously a big man. He's going to be brilliant going forward. It's going to be an awful lot more difficult going backwards. But again, he's going to be another option. These lads, they're all not going to start, but to have lads tailor-made ready to come in for even 15, 20 minutes, even 5 minutes. Like look at Clare in the All-Ireland replay last year. You had Keane Galvin coming in extra time. He would, if it had been a draw and a replay, he mightn't have seen time at all, but he was ready to go and he was ready to stop Shane Kingston in extra time. So they do look like they have a lot of riches and a lot of options at this stage.
That's crazy, because like, you think about it too, like you bring in these types of lads, like Kylie could turn around and be like, right, sure, I'll bring in 1 midfielder, 2 forwards and 2 backs for the last you think about that, like in the last 10 minutes and going into injury time. So let's say somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, when you're kind of starting to tire and you're fighting to hold on, and next thing 5 Limerick lads come on, full of beans that should have been starting or could be starting anywhere, and then you're going, I have to track this lad now. And so that's the thing. And I actually, because people were saying like, oh, he'll probably be centre forward, but Cian Lynch midfield there, like, oh my God, he was absolutely class there the other day. And like, this was the thing as well about picking man to match, was like, sure, it could have been one of about 7 lads. Like Barry Murphy, I decided on Barry Murphy because the whole way through the game. So the way I picked man to match, right, while the game's going on, I have the programme in front of me and I'm putting marks beside the names of people. And basically Barry Murphy just ended up with the most amount of marks. And I was kind of going, right, from the start of the game to the end of the game, Barry Murphy, I'd say, did not put a foot wrong. The two of the 3 inside forwards didn't score from play. Stakelin was taken off. Another lad came in. I can't remember who came in from now off the top of my head, sorry. And the only full forward, let's say, for Tip that scored was Keneally. So I was kind of going, geez. And he came out with so much ball. I'd say he gave it away once, maybe, for the amount of possession he had. And I was just going, because next thing, at the end of the match, when I had decided there was about maybe 5 minutes left in the game, next thing all of a sudden, Junior Burns got like 2 more points or something. He ended up with 7. I was going, sure, you know, how can you play wing back and get like whatever 4 points from play and not be man of the match? But just a ferocious, like they were so good. But Cian Lynch is a funny one, like, because where would you think, like, what do you think is his best position? Is it midfield or is it centre forward, or does it even matter? Like,
I think when he comes out around the middle, he just picks up some amount of ball and just links some amount of play. Plus, they're going to have loads of options in around centre forward. Like, I think David Reedy's probably their best centre forward, nearly. And he floats back into that space as well. But there's just so many lads vying for a couple of spots. Listen, it's a great place to be. And they're going to pick up knocks and they're going to be missing lads at different stages. But Lynch looks like he's bouncing this year already. He already looks like he's moving a hell of a lot better. Do you know what he did the other day? And I love to see it because everyone talks about acceleration in hurling and even Gaelic. And it's obviously massively, massively important. But he decelerated, put the brakes on unbelievably quick, planted the feet and put over a lovely point. Because people aren't really expecting him to do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? So he just put the brakes on, bought himself half a yard and threw it over the bar on the right-hand side. I think it was in the second half. We got a lovely, lovely score. But he looks like, another fella who has the bit between his teeth, because there's no point saying any different. The 3 lads that came back from Limerick duty last year, by all accounts, Lynch, Burns and Gillan were, in horse racing terms, they were over the top. Like, they were fatigued by the time they came back. They were all relatively quiet for their club. They've obviously got a decent break in. They've obviously got a good pre-season in as well. And Gillan hasn't hit his stride yet, but he will. They all look like they mean business. I'll put it to you that way. Mm-hmm. Just put in here, Richard Hogan has a comment in. Lynch is probably better in midfield, just gets a more ball in that position. English probably ends up at 10 or 12. O'Donovan can rotate between midfield and 6, depending on who they play. And again, as you mentioned horses for courses, it will be dependent on who they're playing. It's just the luxury of having Hegarty under a high ball when you need a ball won is massive. Same with Tom Morrissey as well. But their cup overflows, and that's never a bad thing. From a tip point of view, Nisha, then I don't know. At least how much more improvement do you think is in that side? There's probably a lot less improvement. You'd imagine there's a lot less room for improvement compared to some other top sides at the minute.
Yeah, and they kind of fell into a lot of old traps as well. Going long probably too often was another one. Like, it's like I remember I did an analysis package on this when Davy was over Waterford and they were playing tip in Thurles, and then Davy ended up doing that thing where everyone runs up the field and everyone had vacated the full back line and the defence basically. So then the long ball worked like a treat and Jake Morris went to town on Waterford. But their point of delivery is too far back. Like, so the thing is, like, whatever, you lose an almighty amount of possession when you try to strike it long from inside your own 45. And that's tip kind of keep doing that, where they're striking from way too far back. So then by the time it's dropping into the forwards, the half back lines have come back. And unless you can win it clean and create a score or score yourself, you're not going to get much out of it, because it's going to break and boom, you get swallowed up and it's turned over and it's run back out up, and then because you're so far back, people are picking off scores from around the 65, which is what Limerick were doing. So that's a big thing. I'd say they'd be happy enough that they didn't concede a goal, would be the first thing. I would say that they didn't concede any goals at all. So that's a positive, I suppose. But just for a team that looked so far ahead in the first couple of rounds, they kind of seem to run out of ideas with the last 10 minutes to go, like, where you would have kind of nearly thought, based on the first couple of games, they'll be the fitter team, they'll be the more energetic team coming down the stretch, and they'll be able to run Limerick here a bit, but they couldn't. And like I was saying as well, their full forward lines, apart from Keneally, seemed to get completely swallowed up. Like, now McCarthy was brilliant on the freeze, like, to be fair to him, but Stakelum barely got on the ball. Like, I know Barry Murphy obviously was man of the match and was kind of sweeping in front and full back, full forward and all, but still, like, somebody has to kind of cop on to that.
Yeah.
And nearly give up playing corner forward and just stand on Barry Murphy to make sure he's not getting the ball, you know, and then you make yourself some kind of nuisance and you win a free or you win a few balls, you set up points for Jake Morris and the lads outside that are running off the shoulder, because some of the moves they did were really nice now, but it was few and far between. And I know it's Limerick, but again, it wasn't Limerick's first team, so a decent amount of improvement, I would say, ahead of them. They need to, if they are going to be competitive in Munster at all, I'd imagine, because who's to come back forward?
Noel McGrath, like, who wasn't guaranteed his place last year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now. I don't think they don't have the colour of the players that Limerick are going to bring back. I'll put it to you that way. I think from a Limerick point of view as well, when you are able to call on all these new faces, a lot of them, like Eddie Stokes and a few more who have only come into the fold really this year, and they seem to understand exactly what their role is, and it's seamless enough. The face changes, but you know, the output from the role doesn't seem to change, which is massive. And listen, that's the envy of every manager and every coach, but that doesn't happen by accident as well. Like, the thing about Paul Connacht is, and I'm convinced of this, is when you have like a genius coach, you could go in and watch him, I'd say, 10 nights in a row and still not really, and try and take away what he's doing and still not really get it, I'd say. And it's just stuff that's been imported over and over and over again, and little things that they just seem to master perfectly, and it's things that they probably don't even think about in games, but it's just, they're at a really, really high level, and that's as a squad overall, which is, for them, it's a very, very satisfying place to be.
I'd love to watch their shooting practice, because like some of the points they score, it's kind of like Tony Kelly, like, right? Some of the points they score, you'd be like, you know, if you were down the field and your team were practicing these shots, you'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you shooting from the corner to 21? Why are you shooting, you know, like that, you know, like Seamus Flanagan and Gallan do this the whole time, where they're running nearly completely with their back to the goal and they spin it totally over the shot, and you're like, how do they always score them points? Well, obviously they're practicing, because they rarely miss-hit them and rarely go wide. It's like they seem to get this clean connection and it gets over the bar all the time. Like, it's just, so like, apart from obviously the gameplay and the game plan and the structure and everybody knowing what they're doing and all that, this like kind of mad scoring ability is just, it's absolutely crazy watching them sometimes, like, where you're just like, how do these, like, just Patrick O'Donovan's one just amazed me like the other day, but like Gallan does things like that all the time as well. We're just like, what are you even shooting for? But they get them.
Yeah, Gallan often makes it look like he's looking for somebody else, and he's not. He's kind of
not at all.
Half getting a little glance at the post, I'd say. I want to talk about Kilkenny briefly, Nisha, because it was a bit of a nothing game at the weekend. But something, I think this is a recurring theme. The Cats are losing their claws. I don't care. Kilkenny are not absolutely eviscerating teams when they should be, or when the capability is there to do it. Like, they could have steamrolled Wexford the other night, and it could have been 15, 20 points. And I just think when they have the foot on the opposition throat, they don't seem to squeeze. And listen, it's unfair to compare to the great team, but that's what you always do. Because I remember playing against them, and you'd be 4 or 5 down at the break or whatever, and you're half think you have a chance, and they just come out, and it's point after point after point, and it's just, you look up at the scoreboard, all of a sudden it's 20 points or whatever. Whereas now, I just honestly think they're leaving teams in games, and they're not inflicting like psychological damage on teams. Like, they could have inflicted a real psychological blow on Wexford the other night, but Wexford were the ones that came away with out of the second half thinking, geez, that was a decent second half anyway, we restored a bit of pride or whatever. I just don't think they're just not hammered at home. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, and like, if you're Wexford there, if you're Keith Rossiter or even some of the players, you'd nearly be saying, just if we had 5 or 10 more minutes there, we probably could have won that. Like, they had totally changed the game, and like, it could be a mix of things, like, because it's the league, you don't know what they're doing fitness-wise, that maybe they're just getting tired there coming towards the end of the game there on Saturday night. Could be just a case of, like, the lads that they're trying, the lads that they're playing just maybe aren't at that level. Could be a mix of that too. Again, like, they're obviously, look, you're missing Adrian Mullen, let's say TJ isn't there, but still, like, I mean, like, you know, other lads have to step up, like, at this stage, like, you know, it's just like, they just have to step up, and it has to be raised to a standard. And this is the thing, is like, you're always going to be compared to the really great team, the greatest team of all time, right? You're always going to be compared to them, and rightly so, because that's the standard, and that's the standard you were raised in. That's the standard you live by. But, you know, to reach that standard is probably, you know, it's ridiculous really to think that they could do that. But like that, still have some of the old kind of traditions left of, hey, when we get ahead, if we're up by 8, we win by 14. If we're up by 10, you know, or if you're down by 3, we win by 5. You know, you stay going until this game is dead and buried. And we're going to be the ones. Remember Eddie Brennan when he was with us? What was it he said? You get your hands under their neck and you hold it under the water until the last bubble pops. And we're going like, nice. But it's like, but that's the attitude, because it was like, look, this person is coming to take what you want, and it's like, so what are you going to do? Like, and I mean, the Kilkenny team, there's no set positions, there's no set places, so it's like, you know, like, come on. Like Mossy Keown, this is why I love Mossy Keown. I thought he was absolutely savage against Clare. But like, this is why I love Mossy Keown. At this time of the year seems to always suit him. He's a beast, like, and like, you can always tell he wants to play for Kilkenny, like, he wants to play. Whereas like, there's some of the other lads are like, hey, look, you know, you're after getting kind of, you know, 4 or 5 league games now over the last 2 or 3 years. When is it going to click with you here now? You kind of need to grab something here by the scruff of the neck and decide like that you're doing it or you're not, like. Whereas there's a few lads, kind of, this is another part of it too, like, say like Limerick, everyone that comes in seems to understand exactly what they're doing. Whereas some of the Kilkenny lads, not yet anyway, it looks like they don't kind of understand yet the whole concept of, here, pop it here, move there, pop it there, come back, and then go. Everyone's still kind of, because if you look at the club hurling in Kilkenny, and an awful lot of teams are still just playing 15 on 15, kind of will puck it, and it's all about winning the ball and moving. And look, it can be very exciting at times, but like up here, it's just, it's too far behind now. Whereas Kilkenny were way ahead. Now they're like, like, I was at the 2 semi-finals, and the 2 senior semi-finals now, and I was at one of the quarterfinals as well, and it was like watching hurling from the early 2000s. Like, it was puck it long, win the ball, turn, shoot, you know, win freeze, whatever, which can be very exciting, like I'm saying, but it's too far behind. It's so I just think it takes some of them a long time to get up to speed with the tactical element and the movement and all the gameplay stuff, because Derek Ling and them are obviously trying to change that you can't go long all the time, because you're just going to, you get beaten by average teams if you're going long all the time. So you have to be able to do both, and it's just taking them a while to get rid of the old stigma, to get up to date with the hurling, I think, anyway. It's a mix of that kind of stuff, I just from looking from the outside.
The key to going long actually working is an element of surprise, and that's why Cork got so much joy out of Limerick last year, because, well, maybe there shouldn't have been an element of surprise the second time they did it in the All-Ireland semi-final, but there was definitely an element of surprise the first time. And it works to go long when you go short to draw them out, and then they think you're going short, and then you put it over the top. But yeah, I would just be, I'd have a fair worry now about the quality coming in Kilkenny, and there's no one. All I know is, and I was the same vintage as you growing up, there was a list the length of your arm, the amount of exciting lads coming up. You had Richie Power and Cha around the same time. You obviously had Richie Hogan coming. TJ was probably a bit less heralded or whatever, but they were like huge names that were all ready to come. And I just don't see those. If I went back to the last 5-6 years, I don't know, would I be able to identify even one player that you're saying, oh, he's going to make a cracking senior, or, you know what I mean? So that would be a bit of a worry, from the quality point of view there. We just have a little look at Galway the other night, Nisha. Obviously, we were here after round 1, and I don't think we did now, to be fair. You can kind of lose the run of yourself after one result, and Galway were beating out the gate, and you're like, Jesus, you know, Donoghue 2.0 is going to be a bit tricky, but they looked a different animal the other night. They looked a different animal down in Nolan Park, in fairness, as well. And Anthony Burns hadn't played that much hurling, that much senior hurling up until recent years. And by all accounts, I'm told locally, if Jamie Ryan was fit, that he mightn't have even started for Loughrea last year. He ended up being their best player in the club championship. There's a lot about him. There's a lot about him I like. He seems to have that speed gene, number one. He seems to have a bit of boldness, number two. He's got an eye for goal, number three. And boldness in a couple of respects, as in he's willing to try, like even that pickup, like not many lads would even try that. But he fairly announced himself the other night. It was Declan McLaughlin the week before with 2-2. Burns finished with 2-3 the other day. And listen, he's a long way to go to be a foil for Conor Whelan, but there's a bit of a possibility there anyway.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing, like a bit of boldness and ball winning in around the edge of the square, like you need it, because like now I know it wasn't really picked up on the cameras now, whatever happened with when he was tangled up with
Darrell.
Yeah. Whatever happened there now, you'd be hoping like hopefully didn't jab him in the privates with the hurl or whatever, where you're kind of like, right, that's gonna be all boldness to just dirt. But again, like it's kind of this, someone's giving it to him, he's not going to be afraid to give it back, like a real Loughrea man, like Johnny Marr.
Is that the greatest hurling clip on the internet?
Oh, it's up there. It's madness. That's the craziest thing ever. And then the ref with the ponytail just ignoring everything that happened and just letting them take the free or the penalty or whatever it was. Like, he's literally kicking lads on the way out to take the penalty, and you're letting them take it.
It was I don't know how you'd equate it. It was like, I don't know. It was like the golden child of like a teacher in school or something like that. Or the principal's child, we say, in another teacher's class. It was like, oh no, he can do this. It's okay. Like it's grand, he can still take
no. It's his free, let him. It's his free. He was fouled, let him take it. I'll send him off after it. Oh, will you?
Yeah.
But no, Burns, I liked him in the club championship as well. Now we didn't get to see enough of the Galway club championship, unfortunately, like on telly or whatever, like, but looked dangerous against the Fian as well. But geez, he just looked himself and Conor Whelan for lads again that probably haven't been playing much together. But this is what happens when you have really good players, especially forwards, playing beside each other, that just you kind of get this, you know, like in wrestling they always say like, oh, why did it work so well between you and him? You know, it's just like chemistry. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, chemistry. It's like, yeah, Conor Whelan and Burns there the other night, it just looked like they had chemistry. Even when Whelan was running in on the goal that time, and you kind of thought, geez, he's breaking through here, go on, bury it. And he did the right thing, obviously. Says, no, Burns is out there, boom, slings it to him. And Burns, it was funny, went the long way around about scoring the goal, but still, like, I mean, Whelan, number one, had the confidence to give it to him, which is a great sign for a new fella. And then Burns gets it, runs back around, changed the momentum of the defenders, and then scores in the end. Like, but it was yeah, you'd be thinking, like, if you're in Micheál Donoghue's shoes, it's like it's exactly what you would have wanted to have seen from a fella who's coming in to try and prove himself. That he, like, you talk, this is the thing I'm talking about with the Kilkenny side. It's like, well, who's doing that for Kilkenny?
Yeah. Totally, yeah. I'm glad Prewell74 brought this up, because I was going to bring it up myself. He said Burns got off a lot lighter than Flanagan for doing the same thing. Well, we have no evidence that he did the same thing, because we saw what Seamus Flanagan did. We didn't see what Burns did. We have anecdotal evidence from how Darrell Owen reacted to suggest. But number two, he wasn't facing them if he did it. It was potentially a swing back. But we don't have video evidence to say that he did it, so I don't think you can comment anything even remotely close to the Seamus Flanagan incident. Just on that, actually, and I should have said it, what do you make of Seamus Flanagan being kind of disciplined by Kiley in the context of other things that have happened in Limerick and other players that you would suggest haven't been disciplined, maybe for off the field stuff? I thought it was interesting, to say the least. Now,
so right, the big difference there is on the field and off the field stuff, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not defending either one, blah, blah, blah. The stuff with Flanagan, you have to be real careful with too, because that was recorded on somebody's phone from the stand. So officially the GA can't really do anything there, because they would open up a massive can of worms there, and probably, according to a couple of people I was talking to again, and would probably be opening themselves up to be actually taken to court, like as in by Seamus Flanagan. So you can't take, it would be a totally different thing now if it was like TG Carr's cameras caught it, and then you go, bang, there you go. That's why the Burns thing, it wasn't clear at all, really. And they replayed it. To be fair to TG Carr, they kept trying to replay it and see but the camera was at the far goal behind, looking the whole way up, and then you're kind of going, and it's night time and all that, and you can't really see. So the thing with, disciplines Flanagan, look, that's his decision. He's the manager. He might say, look, on the field, lads, we are not tolerating that. We cannot afford to get men sent off, because referees, I don't care. People are looking for excuses to get Limerick lads sent off. Like, they just, and that's the kind of mentality they will have, and rightly so, right? So it's one of them things where, look, that can't be tolerated, can't be accepted, because it wasn't nice what he did at all. And again, that's on the field. I'm not going to comment on anything that happens off the field, because everybody has their own life to live. Everybody does whatever. I don't agree with a lot of stuff. I don't care about most stuff. But John Kiley, which is well within his rights as the manager to do, decided to take disciplinary action on something that happened on the field that he saw later, obviously, and was like, listen, that is not happening in this group. You're suspended. Take your punishment, and on we go. I'd imagine. Like that again, from the outside looking in, and as a teacher, I suppose, as well, it'd be like one of them things. If somebody's doing something in your classroom, you know, you'd discipline them. But if somebody does something outside the school to somebody, and somebody tells you then in school, it's like, well, sure, what can I do with that? You know, do you know what I mean? Kind of similar kind of a thing, but not really. But you know, oh, he's bullying me. Well, what does he do? Oh, he calls me names and beats me up at soccer. Right? Well, I'm not the soccer coach. I'm the teacher in the classroom. If he's bullying you here and I see him, yeah, he's getting it. But you know, it's one of them things. I know it's well within his rights, and he's probably right to do it. I'd have probably done the same, to be honest. Like, and the other thing as well is, because of the embarrassment of riches, he's probably, well, you know, he can go Seamus, you're suspended, and we're bringing in 2 other lads, you know, and you can just go, good luck, you know. So Pat Ryan would probably be the right lad to ask about that now.
Yeah, it was an easy out. Yeah, it was an easy out, I'd say, in a way, for Kiley too. He was able to discipline him. There's nothing on his record this year, because if he had been sent off, it's a tricky one. He gets sent off again, then he misses games come championship time. Do you know what I mean? And then the panel and the squad are, you know, they really feel that or whatever. So it was probably an easy kind of thing to nip it in the bud, maybe internally or whatever. Last thing on Galway, Nisha. Obviously, Gavin Lee is not a centre back that we knew of. He probably wasn't as influential the other night, but that looks like something they're going to persist with. Daniel Loftus was good in the corner. They have a ball of energy out around the middle with Monaghan and Fatty, and they kind of complement each other fairly well too. Like, it does look like there's the makings of a kind of a new team there, with plenty of the older stagers kind of mixed in there as well.
Yeah, Nyland as well. I actually liked the way he's striking the ball and shooting and stuff as well. Like, and then also you think about it, like, so Donoghue is obviously going to be in this for a kind of a few years now, right? Because some of the young fellas they've coming through are serious players. Like, I was covering them a lot with minor and under 20 matches in the last couple of years at TGR. They have a few serious hurlers between the Cleans.
Yeah,
and then
actually as well. I liked him a couple of years ago. I remember saw him under Henry, and I didn't think he was a forward, but he links the play really well. Lovely striker the ball as well. But you're 100% right. Like, Aaron Nyland and a few more lads did a good minor team a couple of years. They've had a good minor team for the last 2 or 3 years. So you're definitely right. He's in it for the long haul and duty free, and it's to get a lot of lads through over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, because they have a serious team coming together. They do, like, and it's like one of them things. It's mixing the lads, mixing the older lads who've been there, done that, you know, been competing around All Irelands and all, with the new younger lads that are coming up. So you mix the brain with the energy, and it's like trying to get that right, trying to get the balance right. Whereas you don't have too big of a gap of, oh, we have 5 lads who are 30, 31, and then we have 10 lads who are 20. You know, we're kind of going that just, you need the kind of average age to be around somewhere around 26, like somewhere around that, like, you know. So yeah, no, I liked them. I watching them there, like, it kind of, they just looked way better than Clare. And I know Clare, obviously they're missing the load and it's the league and this and that and the other, but they looked way better than Clare, I thought, the other night.
Clare, obviously their modus operandi is a bit different this year. Like, they were probably going after a league title last year. As you said, there's a lot of faces missing. We haven't seen John Conlon yet. McInerney picked up an knock the first day. We haven't really seen much of David Fitzgerald yet. Obviously, we're not going to see O'Donnell. We saw the first bit of Tony Kelly the other night. what's a good league? Kind of blood a lot more players for later in the year and make sure they maintain 1A status realistically, I'd say, is it?
But pretty much like you'd be thinking is, get lads game time, see who'd be up to it for championship, and then stay in 1A. But looks of things like they're going to slide out of it themselves, and Wexford are in bother there, I think. I know Clare have only played 2 games, but like who have they left to play? Like I think
if they beat Wexford and Tip, they'll be head to head with Tip, obviously. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so like that's the thing, is like they'll obviously be thundering into that Tip game, especially. So depending again,
they're behind as well, aren't they? They've only played 2.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so Clare have only played 2, like, so you're kind of going, okay, they have that little bit of a grace there, where like you're saying, like, you know, they have to beat Wexford, like they have to beat Wexford, and then they have to beat Tip, and yeah, so it just, I would say staying in 1A, and then making sure that they find maybe 4 more players or 5 more players that can play in championship between starting and coming on, that you can play and you have the cover. Like, again, I know they're the kind of, well, Clare won the All-Ireland and won the league, but like Limerick still kind of are the standard. And as far as panel depth go, that's the standard, that you could nearly haul out 15 and put in another 15. Like, you could definitely haul out 11 and put in another 11, like, you know, and they wouldn't look out of place, judging on what we've seen. So that's kind of the thing. It's like, could Clare find another 4 or 5 lads who would make some kind of an impact come championship?
Yeah, just to clear up something as well, there was a bit of commentary online about Adam Hogan not playing the Fitzgibbon last week and then playing there on the Saturday. So he hadn't passed concussion protocol by that Wednesday night, but it passed, I think it was 2 days later, but it had passed by the Saturday night, so he wasn't pulled or anything. He just wasn't, in fair, you have to doff the cap to the Mary I lads and Jamie Wall and the boys, because you could probably try and dodge it by a day or 2, but you're totally doing right by your player by following the protocols and making sure he gets the extra days and making sure there's no issue, particularly with the head. Meehan was injured. I don't know why Shane Meehan was named to start on Saturday night, because he had torn his hamstring by all accounts and he was never fit to play. That sort of thing really annoys me. I don't know why. If a fella is out, he's out. Like, there was no hope of him featuring at all. Just name a fresh enough team. It doesn't have to be exactly what it's never going to be exactly what the team is, but don't blatantly lie. Makes no sense.
Sure, Foodie was in goal and he wasn't even named in the programme, and so he came out with a black helmet and a top on him, and the TG4 lads didn't know, like, it was down as I think Eivor Quilligan was down to start, but then when they looked, they were like, well, that's obviously not Eivor Quilligan, and only for Paul Flanagan was there and said, hey, that's Foodie, you know, to play. But like, wouldn't you kind of think like okay, I get this whole thing of it's only about us and we need to, but like, in all fairness, like, the chap got to start in a National League game in goal for Clare, the All-Ireland champions and league champions. Would you not think, hey, look, let's name him? And then, because Paul Flanagan is there, and you can kind of nearly even highlight him and make a bit of a deal about him and highlight his club and talk about the work he has done and how good he is and what he's good at and what to expect from him, blah, 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 and give him a 2-minute or 30-second praise match, you know, before the game, where you kind of go, hey, look, let's big up this fella a bit. But then you rob it from him just by going like, hey, what team will we put in for Saturday? I'll just throw down any team. Oh, okay. And then next thing, there's all these lads, and then right before the match, you know, TG Cardi always do this thing, because you have to, like, for the telly, you go, any changes? No changes. Oh, right, so you're playing as the programme. Yeah, we are.
That really annoys me. Why would you play in the minutes before? Like, there's no edge to be got.
But and this is the thing, like, and this annoys the hell out of me, like, in general in society in Ireland as well, like, right? But like, let the lads be promoted. Like, just let the players be promoted. It's hard enough to know who they are because they're hidden behind helmets, right? Just let us talk about them. Let us mention their name, mention their club, who they're related to, maybe what they're good at. You know, oh, he's done this, he's done that, he's won this, he's won that. He went to this place, he went to that place. This is what he's good at. Oh, his father did this, his mother did that, and you do something. Give him some kind of promotion. Like, it's just, I think it's absolutely crazy. Or then this whole thing of, hey, and even I know like the lads are writing in newspapers and do all this stuff, like the build up to the All Irelands or the build up to the championships, like, and it's virtually non-existent. It's like, lads, like if you're not going to big yourselves up, who do you think is going to? Like, just like, and at this stage, there's no secret plans. There's no rabbit going to be pulled out of a hat that all of a sudden you catch somebody on the hop, literally with a rabbit. Coming into the championship now, it's like everyone's so well prepared and well trained and knows, kind of so well coached compared to what it used to be. It's like, just come on, like, jeez. And then I see, like, there lately, sorry, kind of ranting a bit here now, but like the GPA, they're coming out with this report, and county players are this much out of pocket and they're that much out of pocket. Well, what might help you get something more into your pocket? Promote yourself, promote the teams, promote your clubs, and then somebody might say, jeez, I like the way he talks. Jeez, I like the way he said that. I like that. Do you know what? I could give him a sponsorship deal here on a car, or I could give him, jeez, it'd be like Happy Gilmore, Subway sandwiches for life. Something like, it's so crazy, this whole thing of, no, you have to be buried in a cave if you want to be a county player now. Like, I hate it. And again, I get the TV side and I get the player side, right? But as far as I just think like, because you should be kind of getting ready, and I know it's different than being a professional sports star, blah, 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 but you should be getting yourself kind of ready at a certain age. It's not easy, obviously, for lads in their early 20s trying to break onto a panel. You don't want to be stepping out of line or anything, but you should be getting yourself ready for a life after playing. As in, how do I strike while the iron is hot here? Like, for example, Joe Canning, like that, he's in the boot. But like, because he was always kind of outspoken, and he was doing stuff with Adidas and he was doing stuff with other brands or whatever. And it's just like, everyone knows who he is, but by design. Not only was he absolutely class at hurling, but I mean, his face was nearly everywhere. DJ Carey in the 90s, he was doing ads for McCoy's crisps. Like, come on. Avon Moore ads where they're all drinking out of the carton. Things like that. Like, that's all gone. Like, it's just, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy.
Oh, we're missing a trick totally. Like, and I'd be straight with you. I think there's a time coming, kind of like a day of reckoning, and it's not a million miles away. We've totally taken for granted that people will show up to matches. We've totally taken for granted. But I would say for hurling, outside of the All-Ireland final and the Munster final and a big, juicy All-Ireland semi-final, we're not getting the crowds that we should be getting. And you can say that that's something to do with maybe more streaming networks on board or whatever. But Jesus, it would help if you promoted the games. You know what I mean? It would help if players were more visible, if managers were more visible. And even if it just has to be the manager that does the talking. That's grand, because they can control what they say. I don't really want any players out there the week of championship. That's grand. I'll talk or whatever. Because I've seen some counties do it brilliantly. Say, for example, the Sligo footballers, every week they play in championship. I think they might do it during league as well. There's a certain amount of players put up for interview. These lads are available for interview if you want them. And this selector or whatever. And it's like, Jesus, great. We're able to talk to a player the week of a championship game. Ideal. And there's nothing to be lost from it. If I understand some lads aren't comfortable talking to the media, and that's fine. Go to the other lads. There are some lads that are more than comfortable talking to the media and would like to do it. And as you say, you never know what spin-off might come of it. You might end up doing a podcast out of it, or being an analyst when you finish hurling or when you finish football or something like that. And people think, oh, he was a good talker that time. We'll get him on this, or we'll get him on this panel discussion, or we'll get him on this live show, or we'll get him on this TV show, or whatever it is. Or do you know what I mean? I really, really think we're missing a trick in that regard now. But we're probably gone off on the tangent of all tangents.
Last one. We could all take a lesson from WWE here, was that I think Ric Flair said you have to talk them into the arena. You talk them into the arena, and that's what hurlers and footballers and managers should be doing. If you're not comfortable, find out in the group who is and just say, look, let loose on them there. Yeah, grand, yeah. Talk about anything except for the opponents. Just give them some token respect and then just chat up the team.
Just on that, Nisha. Nobody, if I were chatting to you and you're the centre forward for a team playing the All-Ireland final next weekend, right? Realistically, I'm not going to ask you, oh, who will you be marking next week? How do you think you get on him? Nobody really cares, because you're not going to say, oh, yeah, I think I'll clean him or whatever. But what I would like to know is, okay, what's your day job? What are your hobbies? What do you do outside of this? Did you spend the summer in the States? Who are your influences, etc., etc.? Who knows what tangents that comes down? But I all of a sudden there's a big spread on you somewhere, and lads know oh, did you see he skateboards, or did you see he does whatever? Do you know what I mean? Like that's what people want to know. You know, there's a lot of really interesting county players out there, like really, really interesting, but they just don't get the opportunity to talk a lot of the time, and it's a shame, really. Something I did want to talk about as well, Nisha. You were watching the Fitzgibbon Cup the other night. Now, this is a big kind of bugbear of mine. I don't want to see lads sent off just willy-nilly or anything like that, but these head-high challenges, and I'm glad there were a couple of reds the other night, Alan Connolly included. Like, we're teetering right on the edge here. These are really, really dangerous tackles. And I'm not a shrinking violet, and I've taken a few of them myself. And you will take some accidental ones in games. That's just the nature of hurling or whatever. But we're just going to have to stamp down, like take a really hard line, throw a really hard line in these, and just knock them out. And if it means that, you know, lads see red cards, a rise in red cards in the short term as a result of it, then so be it. If we stamp this, I would, you know, nearly class a blight in the game now at this stage.
Yeah, not 100%, because it's one of them things, like, if that's not a red card, what is? You talk about player safety, concussions, all that kind of stuff. Connolly's one in particular now, and again, I actually love him as a player. I always thought he's the type of lad that's been missing from Cork for a while. But that tackle, like, he lined him up from a couple of yards back, and your man wasn't getting up. Like, he wasn't going to be stand up. So, you know the way sometimes someone times it perfectly. I played with lad in Freshford. His nickname was Bowler, and he was the best. Like, it'd be a thing of, like, lads would rise, stand up, turn, and as they're turning, he'd nail him on the shoulder. So, like, it wasn't like one of them. It was like he was still down, and he gets clobbered across the side of the head. Like, that 100% has to be a red card. And I was doing a couple of minor games there, maybe 2 years ago now at this stage, where Kilkenny knocked out a fella playing for Galway.
It was last.
Yeah, and nothing happened. And I remember none of us could believe. It was like, I can't believe that. And your man couldn't come out for the second half, missed the following game, and then was back for the All-Ireland final, I think, but wasn't right. Like, 100% was not right in the All-Ireland final, like, and you could tell. But then in the next game, Kilkenny, I think, got 2 lads sent off for head-high tackles as well. So you're kind of going, well, geez, lads, like, see, it should have been a red card the first day against Galway, and then the second day wouldn't have happened. Like, so it's this inconsistency of, do you remember there for a while, it was every contact with the head was a red card. I remember Podge Collins got sent off one time because he was trying somebody went to control and hand went up like this, and he flicked in his hurl and clipped someone on the side of the head, and he got sent off. And you're kind of going, well, that's not a red card. But Gizzy Ling got sent off, got a red card against Kilkenny one time for shouldering a lad, I think, now accidentally, whatever, but still got him in the head. And you're kind of going, yeah, but them ones have to be a red card. You know, it's like, it's the shoulder into the jaw or cheek or side of the head, or, you know, as somebody's bending over, especially, or into the face, whatever, they have to be red cards. A big heavy blow like that, an arm across, a shoulder into the head, they just have to be cut out. They just have to be cut out.
And you can say you didn't mean it, and chances are you probably didn't, but don't put yourself in that position. Do you know what I mean? Don't go in for that big hit. Let him come up and just put your 2 hands. Tackle him.
Yeah, but like, I didn't mean it. You sure? So what? You still did it. It's like, you know, when you're running back and you tangle feet and you fall over. Oh, I'm sure it was an accident. Doesn't matter. It's still a foul. It's still a free. Like, it's just.
I've said that several times to referees. I didn't mean that, but you still did it.
yeah. No, they were, again, like, you don't want to see, like, loads of red cards on a team finishing with 13 or whatever. But, like, I mean, if you bust 2 lads into the head, you have to finish with 13.
Yeah. We'll just touch on a couple of teams real quickly, Nisha. My own Offaly had a good win at the weekend. I wasn't really expecting that now, to be honest with you. Hard to know what to judge from it, because Antrim were awful. There's no point in saying any different. But I don't know. I think Offaly are physically at a good level. Do you know what I love? And it's such a simple thing. Their flicking is unreal. Their flicking is brilliant. Like, just like, because it's such a simple thing. If you deny the possession in the initial instance, it creates this byproduct of things that can possibly happen for you. Whereas if he gets the ball in the initial contact, then obviously things can open up for him. I thought they were brilliant at that. I think physically they're getting up closer to the level that's required, and I don't know if that's something that the 20s are kind of driving, but I even look at someone like Brian Dignan and you're kind of thinking this side has turned himself inside out. He's a burst of pace now that I didn't really think he probably had before, so that's kind of exciting. I know you were kind of analysing that game the other day. Anything else you take out of it from an Antrim point of view? Jesus, that was bad now. Bad.
Yeah. Dan Ravenhill as well, physically, is impressive. Dan Burke has a bit to go yet, but or not Dan Burke. But one little thing about the step up now as well. What Offaly, right? We were kind of saying this off air. I don't think we talked about it live, but the big difference between the teams that will kill you and then teams that will lose by a point and was Dignan definitely should have laid off the 2 goals to Charlie Mitchell. Just 100%. Yeah. That's the difference. I know he got man of the match and he was brilliant, but he could have been borderline perfect. Just 2 hand passes across, 2 goals for Charlie Mitchell. Yeah, but Brian, you did the work. That's how we kill teams, right? That's a lesson they need to learn very quickly, because if they're going into Leinster Championship, you cannot leave chances like that behind. So that would be one thing, at least. You'd be kind of going,
that then you see Conor Whelan passing at the Burns. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I mean. That's the difference. But as far as Antrim are concerned, like this thing of running up the field for your own puckouts is madness. It's absolute madness. It didn't work with Waterford, and it's not going to work with any team, right? If you're playing the full back line there, Paddy Burke is as good a full back or good a defender as there is in the country, right? We've seen that with Cushendall, and we've seen it with Antrim plenty of times as well. Like, wasn't he nominated for an All-Star last year?
Yeah.
But he's not going to do anything when he's one-on-one with 50 to 40, yards of space around him, and he has his hands in the air like this while the lad is getting balls peppered in on top of him. It's just crazy, because Owen Campbell, right, really good centre-back, but he was up midfield. And all it takes is one turn of possession and boom, gone, the other side of the field. He's not making up that 50 yards. Like, nobody is. Nobody is faster than the Slitter. So I don't know, unless they decided, look, lads, we're playing them here in Championship in whatever amount of years' time. That's probably the most important game we're going to play. We're giving them nothing here. We're going to play like this, and we're giving them nothing. Like, that's because Sean Elliott inside, as dangerous, and again, in flashes, he showed it, really dangerous forward. Sure, like, just starved him. He got a couple of points, but like, it was clear 100% off him just working to get to the breaks himself and win the breaks and then taking it on himself. Like, there was no move or pattern. They got one good point in the first half off their own puck out, where I was like, that's probably what they're trying to do, where Keelan Lloyd passed it to McNaughton and he caught it nicely and it went over the bar. Then you're kind of going, right, that was nice. Once that happened. Once. Like, it was the amount of, it's hard to understand unless they were trying to pull the wool over the eyes of Offaly and say, look, we're giving them nothing here, but you shouldn't be going in a league game to a kind of a close rival in the Leinster Championship and getting beaten by double scores, by 16 points. Like, that just shouldn't happen at any standard. It doesn't matter. But I mean, you can't really blame the full back line for it either, because like, there was nobody out around them, and there was lads getting bypassed. The whole half back line for Antrim were getting bypassed because they were up in midfield. And then this thing as well, this is the difference between a running game and a passing, kind of short passing game, right? Limerick move the ball while other teams try to move with the player, right? So Limerick go, it's like to 1 to 2 to 3, and they make it like a triangle or whatever, and the ball is doing most of the work. It's not the actual players carrying it, right? I would say Antrim gave away probably 1-3 from play, from running the ball out of the backs, because they overran it in to the other half. Like, the goal came off, was it Elliott? Sorry, he was running with the ball and he tried to flick it off his hurl with one hand to somebody, and it was like he just one after the other running down into blind alleys, and then losing possession, and then Offaly just one pass, bang, directly into the full forward line, and you're killed. Like, no, like I said, it just, the whole structure, none of it made sense, unless you're kind of saying, look, we won't give them anything. I don't really care. This is a physical run out, lads. I don't really care about the result, and I don't care about the score, because it was just, as far as Antrim were concerned, they're like, right. And look, one of my brothers lives in Belfast and plays with Belfast, or plays with Law of Yarrick in Belfast, and my older brother Cian is now managing Ballycastle and hurled Ballycastle. And like, I've cousins in the Glens. I've been to Antrim loads of times. I love the club teams there. I love watching them play hurling. you're walking along the Glens, it's like you're in Kilkenny. The Ards Peninsula is the same. Everybody has a hurling sliotar, the boys, the girls, everything, right? But it looked like the other day that they hadn't played hurling before together ever. Yeah. From a team that like won the Joe McDonagh, looked pretty good in the Leinster Championship when they were playing at their own level. You know, drew at Wexford, beat Carlow, and then, you know, just I don't know what that was at the weekend. It wasn't good enough at all, because you let a hurling team hurl, which was the other thing. Like, Offaly are young and all that, but they're serious hurlers, and they were just allowed to hurl. That's why it looked so mad, because I was like before, there's like, no, Antrim should probably win this game, you know, just as far as experience and physicality and the skill, because it's men against young fellas, like, and you'd have thought Offaly were the older team. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was a mad one. Yeah, I don't think it's any case of pulling the wool over the eyes or something like that. Maybe in hindsight they'll try and make out that it was, but yeah, it was a strange one.
Well, if they play like that in Championship, they get beaten every game by about 20 to 40 points. You cannot do that thing with running up the field like that and leaving, you know, one lad inside your own 45. It's absolutely, the sliotar is faster than everybody in the field. That phrase is as old as time itself. Like come on, just play the game. Play the game. You have 15 to 20 serious hurlers there, intercounty, Liam McCarthy, Leinster Championship standard hurlers. Let them play the game. They know how to hurl. They're as good a hurling county as Offaly, and club scene and all. Well, obviously haven't won the senior All-Ireland, sorry, Offaly have, so sorry. But clubs and all that, hurlers and all that, as good as there is in the country, but you cannot expect any team to play hurling like that. The Waterford players didn't want to play like that, so why would the Antrim players want to?
Yeah, 100%. Hurling is a game where you can't think too much. And if you're thinking too much, you're in trouble. And if you're being forced to think, oh, where am I supposed to be, or what sort of a ball am I supposed to give here? Forget about it. It comes back to what we said about Johnny Keneally. It comes back to instinct. If you remove the instinct from someone, it just will not work.
Yeah, it has to. So it's like, you know, art even, right? God, we're going off on tangents, right? But there is a structure to art, right? How do you make the colours? Right? How do you create colours? There is a bit of a structure, right? Like hurling, there has to be a structure, and then blended with the instinctive genius, skill, and all that kind of stuff. The backs have to be in the backs. There's number one, right? You put a goalie in goal, you put the backs in the backs, and you put the forwards in the forwards. And then you create a pattern of play and let the lads then make their own decisions, but you have to put them in position to make their own decisions. Whereas that thing there, like, is just it's crazy stuff. I don't care how good you are. It's you cannot abandon your defense and have them up the field. Like, it's not, I don't know, it's not American football. One lad can't stand back there and pass it to everybody. Like, you know, it's like, no, everybody has to be back, and then to go forward together, come back together, go forward together, and open up pockets of space. But then they just kind of let Offaly do that because of the way they played. It wasn't even like Offaly kind of came up with some savage game plan and tore them apart. I would say they were like, what the hell is going on here? Just look at all the space over there. Bang, bang, bang. Like, just... Yeah.
No, it was crazy. I'll just touch on a couple of quick things before we go. Richard Hogan just asked thoughts on Darragh Sullivan leaving Ballygunner and Jason Ryan potentially replaced him. Darragh was there for, 6 seasons? He won the first 5 was under... The first 5 was under previous management. The next 6 was under Darragh. Yeah, they won the All-Ireland. They won 3 Munsters. He'd be disappointed they didn't get another All-Ireland. He'd be disappointed how they exited last year. Jason Ryan's, I would say, an interesting appointment. He wouldn't have a huge amount of experience hurling-wise. Obviously, ex-Kildare and Wexford football manager. He's a selector with Wexford at the minute, which will help, but also be a bit of a hindrance in the sense of balancing time. And he'd probably be on the pitch 6, maybe 7 nights a week. Once he starts, so it's a tricky one.
And was he with Abbeyside in Waterford?
In Barntown in Wexford as well. I think he was. I think he could have been over the 2 around COVID times as well, I think.
Yeah, I thought he was with Abbeyside there maybe a while ago anyway. But yeah, no, that is an interesting one. I actually hadn't heard that. But Darragh, when I transferred to Ballygunner, it was Darragh's house I was in, signing the papers and stuff. We were watching horse racing and throwing on a few bets on a few horses and just talking about hurling and stuff like so. Yeah, they would be disappointed, but like the other thing is such a funny thing, like, right? You win one All-Ireland, like, right, and how hard it is. This is another thing people kind of either forget or gloss over. How hard and ugly and wet and damp and dark, and that road is to get into one All-Ireland. Even to get there. So if you're lucky enough to get there and then to win one, right? But then when you win one, the problem is you celebrate like hell, you come down and you go, geez, I want to do that again. I actually want to do that again. How selfish you have to be as a person and as a player and as a, like, to really give up kind of everything and anything to be the best team in the country is kind of something a lot of people kind of, everyone says, geez, I'd love to win the All-Ireland. Yeah, but sure, everybody says that. But do you really want to? And that's the thing, is like doing it once, like how many Munsters does some of them lads have? I know a big thing for them now is to try and be on the top of the roll of honour for Munster ahead of Blackrock. That was always a kind of a big thing, to catch Blackrock and overtake them. So I'd say they'd be fairly disappointed they didn't win Munster, but like what a record some of them lads have, and what a record Dara has. Like, you know, there's only one All-Ireland in the club, and it's him that was managing for it. So for such a strong, successful historical club, like he achieved something that nobody else did. And again, a club from Waterford, like what to do it again, he achieved more than anybody else did. So there's nothing to be. They should be delighted with what they've done, and it'd be interesting to see now as well what changes they'll have as far as personnel, like players, who will go or who will stay, who will come in, and all that kind of stuff. Because it just they're a really, really good crop of players, especially at club level, like a serious crop of players, like and they could well be back again, challenging for Munster, winning Munster even. Just have to wait and see, because Munster is as open as any of them, really. Like, because you know, SARS came out of nowhere, didn't even win Cork, and they won Munster. Like, so it's kind of as open as anywhere, really. So you never know.
Last question. This is for me. PWell 74. Question for Verney. Can you name 5 clubs that Nisha hasn't played for? I'm glad someone else said it. I didn't have to anyway. Nisha, on that note, I'm going to let you go. The nomadic Nisha Waldron. Would you believe I've got an English-Irish dictionary here in front of me, and the author is De Valdraha, so could be some relation to you, pal. You never know.
He isn't actually, even though my grandfather had the same name and used to tell people it was him when he was down in Ring, so he used to get free drink. So the story goes.
Thanks, Nisha. Come on with
sound.
Cheers. Gonna bring in Adam Minot in here now. We'll chat a bit of football. Adam, how are you getting on?
Good, Verney. How are you?
Good. Do you know what? You've done all the research on a lot of the most famous kind of club crests and county crests. So we might fly through a couple of the more interesting ones. Just thinking, because it's always nice to get a little history lesson. In your own time, you might tell us what we're looking at. They'll come up on screen.
Yeah, so last year I wrote an article for the Irish Examiner about club crests. So I looked at every GA crest in the world, county and club actually. Just wondering, you know, some of the more interesting ones, what do some of the elements represent? Some of them are real head scratchers, and I spoke to people involved, the county boards and the clubs, and they were very forthcoming with information and things like that. So it was really, really interesting. Now, this has been in the news in the last week or so because someone noticed that Roscommon have changed their county crests, right? And this came up last year as well when I did the article. So I'll bring it up on screen now. I'm going to show you 2 versions of the county crests, Verney. If I can just, 1 second now, we're having some technical difficulties getting that up. Yeah, just 1 second now, sorry. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so there's the old ones on the left, Verney, and the new ones on the right. Can you spot the difference?
All right, I can, of course, yeah, because I'm from a farming background. I couldn't tell you the different type of sheep it is, though, to be honest with you.
Well, I can tell you anyway, the one on the left isn't a Roscommon sheep, because a couple of years ago, some farmers kicked up a fuss up in Roscommon, and they said that, hang on a second, we've our own breed of sheep up here, the Roscommon sheep, and our sheep doesn't have a black face. So the county board had to get their act together and commission a new crest. They changed the sheep to a sheep with a white face, which is apparently the Roscommon sheep. So yeah, that new crest on the right, as we're looking at it, is just appearing on the jerseys for the first time this year. So that was a funny one, but it wasn't the first time that a county board ran into trouble with having the wrong type of thing on their crest. So back in 2005, Louth commissioned a new crest, which is the one on the left-hand side, and it includes the Boyne Valley Bridge, and that was grand. It's a nice enough crest, but eventually someone in Louth said, hang on a second, most of that bridge is in County Meath. So the Louth County Board had to scratch their heads again and say, geez, like, okay, maybe we better take a look at this. And eventually in 2011, after a motion came in about a year or so earlier than that, they commissioned the new one, which is on the right, which is really one of the most unusual, I would say, county crests out there at the moment. Quite kind of abstract, but I think it's kind of cool. Looks well on a jersey. Yeah.
Probably coincidence that the crest changed a year after Meath robbed the Leinster title off them as well.
I'd say you're not far wrong. I'd say they couldn't wait to get that bridge off their crest after that match. Just sticking with county crests, the oldest existing county crest is the Derry crest, which is very distinctive, obviously, with the oak leaf on it. It was actually designed all the ways back in 1977 by their manager at the time, who was a guy called Frank Carney. Frank wanted to design a kind of emblem for the county team to actually go on the blazer pockets for when they travel to matches. Eventually, a couple of years later, it was used on the jersey for the first time. That's been there on the jerseys since 1980, so it's by far and away the oldest existing county crest. Most of them have been changed really in the last 25 years or so. So I have a couple of more club ones here. Christy Ring, obviously one of the most famous figures in history of the GAA, the great hurler. He originally played for Clyne in Cork, but there was a dispute, and himself and his brothers left the club. They joined Glen Rovers. Obviously, Christy went on to become, one of the greatest hurlers of all time. He won 14 Cork senior hurling titles with Glen and 8 All-Irelands with Cork. So if you look at the top of the crest there, above where it says Clú Nua, you'll see a gold star. So Clyne added this to their crest to represent Christy Ring. So the gold star represents Christy Ring. And if you see there's a little red thing carved out of it, that's supposed to represent a teardrop. So it represents Christy leaving the club. So it's very, very rare. And I went through every crest in the world I could find for an actual player from the club to be kind of referenced within the crest. But sure, Christy was so special that they felt they had to do it. I just have 2 more quick ones. This is really interesting. So Turin Hurling Club in County Mayo, they have a blue devil on their crest. And I think it's the only club in the world that have the devil on their badge. The reason for that is that back in the 1950s, there was a dance hall in Turin. It was built by the famous Monsignor James Horan, who also was responsible for building Knock Airport or conceiving of Knock Airport. And one night, the devil, by all accounts, turned up at the dance hall. And this is actually a big story in Turin, and it was a international story at the time. RTE covered it, that apparently the devil turned up and danced with the girl. Someone spotted that he had hooves, and he ran out the door. And I spoke to the club up in Turin, and they said that it's believed that some of the guys who founded the Turin Hurling Club were there that night that the devil appeared at the dance hall, which is a mad enough story. Just one last one, and this is going abroad for this one. Shunda Gales in China. You see there on the right-hand side, there's a martial artist. That's actually the famous martial artist Bruce Lee, whose ancestral home was in Shunda in Guangdong in China. So definitely one of the more intriguing ones. Again, not very often that you see famous people on crests, but the Shunda Gales over in China use the opportunity to fill in there with someone very famous from their district.
It's gas. I actually only caught them when you brought it back up there. I have a buddy that plays with Shunda Gales, actually.
Oh, no way.
One of my best buddies from home. Yeah, that's gas. I didn't realise it was Bruce Lee's ancestral home. Jesus, yeah. It's cool because there's always you just think of a crest and you don't really kind of read too much into it, but sure, there's some great stories in them, obviously. There's great stuff. No, that's great. A nice little history lesson there, in fairness, Adam. We'll chat a quick bit of football. Obviously, football is the only show in town this weekend. Just tell me quickly, and even growing up, like, what does Dublin Kerry kind of mean to you, even growing up, or what kind of memories does it evoke?
It's really, I mean, look, Kerry have a big rivalry with Cork down through the years, and in more recent times, I suppose in my lifetime, rivalries at Mayo and Tyrone, they'd be the main ones. But like Dublin's always the big one, and to be honest, there's no one even comes near it. I think some of the other counties think that they like to think that Kerry don't like them that much, but really it's Kerry Dublin. Like, if Kerry don't win All Ireland, you're nearly hoping that Dublin don't win it, and if anyone else wins it, it's grand. That's from our point of view. It is really. It's the be all and end all, really, beating Dublin, and that period there, obviously, the last decade was really tough down here to stomach that, to see them age closer and closer to Kerry's overall total. It was stuck on 37 there for a while, and Dublin were kind of getting closer and closer. So yeah, every year Dublin don't win All Ireland is a good year. Not as good as when Kerry win it, but yeah, no, it's great. And look, things have changed a lot now this season. Obviously, Dublin have lost a lot of very important players. They're still going to be very good. It's still going to be a very tough game on Saturday night. But even for different reasons, Kerry won't be really at full strength. You know, Dave Clifford, I don't think, is going to be back in. You're missing the likes of Gavin White, Joe O'Connor, Tony Brosnan, guys that were starting last year, Bruno Biogliac. So for one reason or another, maybe the game on Saturday night won't have the same star power as we were used to seeing with Kerry and Dublin in recent years. But the Dubs always bring great support down to Kerry, and there'll be plenty of banter in the stands back in Nassau Park on Saturday night.
I don't think they've beaten you down there since 1982, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I couldn't believe that. It's a really that's crazy considering, like as I said, they're Kerry's biggest rival. So yeah, they'll be able to try and reverse that run on Saturday night.
What are you expecting? Like, it's kind of hard to know what to expect nearly from both teams in a way. Like, both have played two, both have won one, lost one. Hard to kind of really know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't think at this stage of the year for either team the results are very important. I think they're both in a stage where they're trying to find new players and give new players game time. You know, they're still going to have a good core, but both of these teams will have a good core come championship. It's about filling in the sides really and finding new guys. I think it is more important for Kerry being at home to get 2 points. It's not the be all and end all for Kerry to win the league this year, but obviously no one down here wants us to get relegated either. Jack O'Connor certainly won't want, you know, Kerry's proud record in Division 1 to come to an end. So you're really looking at your home games, and especially having lost to Donegal last weekend, it's really important for Kerry to put in performance this weekend and get 2 points on the board, because there's going to be some very tough fixtures coming up, you know, in the coming weeks. You
mentioned Donegal; they're probably the form team at the minute. That's a tasty enough kind of game. It's a repeat of last year's Ulster final against Armagh at the weekend as well. That's probably outside of Dublin, Kerry, it's probably the pick of the games at the weekend.
Yeah, I think you could probably say that it probably is the pick of the games, considering the teams that Dublin and Kerry are likely to field. I think Armagh and Donegal is going to be really, like, obviously the managers have a rivalry there. It was the Ulster final last year, went all the way to penalties. I was very impressed by Donegal last weekend in Killarney. They're just really fit. There was fellas joking in the press box that those fellas have been training since September, but like they're really looking sharp. Like, they're really looking very well organized, very well drilled. And they were the better team against Kerry by a good distance, I thought, even though there's only 2 points in it in the end. So definitely, yeah, I'd be looking forward to that Donegal and Armagh game. Like, elsewhere, Mayo have to win. Like, Mayo have lost their first 2 games. Any team that loses their first 3 matches, you're under serious pressure there. Like, Mayo have, I think they've got Kerry and Donegal still to come. I think they're away to, is it Armagh as well? So like they're going to have some very tough fixtures coming up, and if they don't get 2 points on the board on this weekend, they'll be under serious pressure.
Would you have Donegal as All Ireland favourites?
Based solely on, like, it's too early to say based solely on this year, but I definitely think they're very much towards the top of the pile as things stand at the moment. But I think it's too early to really say. Like, they did make great progress last year. McGuinness clearly has them very ready for the Ulster Championship already. I'd say he's already targeting that match. I think they're out against Derry in the Ulster Championship. So I think they're ahead of most teams at the moment. But like that, I think teams like Kerry and Dublin, they'll be looking to come more into towards the end of the league. You know, maybe, obviously we know what the standards like in their respective provincial championships. They'll be looking at really targeting, kind of ramping up around that time, I think. So it's hard to say at the moment, but definitely at the moment, I think if you're doing kind of rankings of where teams are right now at this very minute, I think Donegal have to be right up towards the top yet.
You just kind of think of the level they got to last year within 1 year, and you're obviously looking back at the legacy of what they did in his first year, first time around, and then what they did in the second year, first time around, and the parallels are quite striking, really. One thing he doesn't have is the Division 1 league title, which would be, so it'd be interesting to see whether he goes after that. So I always think it's, if there's silverware there and you have a right good chance of winning it, you try and take it. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be. I'm not saying they'll go gung ho for it, but I think they'll be if they're still in with a shout with a round or two to go, I think they'll try and end up winning it, to be honest with you. Derry, Galway, Mayo, Tyrone are the other Division 1 games. A couple of interesting ones in Division 2 as well. If Cork and Westmeath, Down and Meath, Cavan and Louth, Roscommon and Monaghan is probably the most interesting one because they've been two really high scoring teams so far. I'm actually covering that game myself in the Hyde on Sunday. That'll be interesting. Laois and Sligo in Division 3, Clare and Fermanagh, Leitrim and Kildare. Leitrim are under pressure already, big time. And then scored 6 points last weekend and took a bit of a tonking. Stephen Poacher came in as manager. By all accounts, Mickey Graham was in for the year, and the commitment or lack thereof of some players for the year ahead was, I believe, a big reason in why he stepped away. And he's obviously coaching Galway now. So they're kind of behind the 8 ball. Offaly against Antrim. Offaly are going for 3 out of 3 there. Waterford and Tip in Division 4, along with Wexford, Carlow, London, Limerick, and Wicklow, Longford. Anything else in particular, Adam, kind of tickling your fancy this weekend?
I think that Division 2 game between Roscommon and Monaghan will be a good one to watch. It's actually on TG Car Player as well, which is nice to see kind of Division 2 game being covered. Like you might say that it's maybe not super important because those two teams look like they're kind of in good shape and they might end up in a final anyway. But it's just a good opportunity for all of us to see it. Like we don't get to see many of the lower division games on television. So to see that one, I'm looking forward to it. Your own boys there, Offaly, I was going to ask you about them. Like, is it kind of, are you taken by a bit by surprise how well they're doing so far?
Yeah. I was just chatting to somebody there at the weekend actually, and just saying before they played a league game, like the mood wasn't. This is what I'm told anyway. The mood wasn't like unbelievably hectic, shall we say, amongst the players, and then all of a sudden you get a win. And you get another win, and you're chatting to the same players, and they're in a completely different frame of mind. Like it's gas what a win or two can do. Like, and on the flip of that, then you look at, let's say, Sligo, who were well fancied coming into it, are 0 from 2. Now I still think Sligo will still be right in the shake-up. They've played Kildare and they've played Offaly. I think they're obviously going to need to probably win the remainder of the games. So I still think they'll be right in the mix. But from an Offaly point of view, if they're able to get a result this weekend, that'd be huge. And on home soil, you think they have a good chance of getting a result anyway. So it's all kind of heating up in the leagues. I'm just wondering, did you catch any of the Sigerson last night? I think it was Ethan Dunn in the middle of the field for DCU. Definitely put his hand up for selection for Desi Farrell, and that was obviously an all Dublin affair. Conor McEgan was playing from an Offaly point of view as well, but a good win for DCU, who are obviously going for the double at the weekend. The hurlers are playing UL on Saturday, and they've never won a hurling before. Did you catch any of that, Sigerson, or see any bits and pieces of it?
No, just one or two highlights really. So you probably saw more than I did. Yeah.
It's all, and listen, it's always a fair signpost to what the future is going to hold for a lot of counties. If you see a lot of names featuring, 2 lads from Leitrim involved actually with DCU, both from the same club as well, which is a big one for them. So we look forward to the football action at the weekend, and obviously the Fitzgibbon Cup final on Saturday. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Lottoland, once again, and myself and Adam and another hurling guest will be back again next Thursday, and we will chat to you then.